he throws that with great regularity, including that Yankee start where his fingernail was basically ripped. So yeah, and he had some issues today, high pitch count early in the game, and hopefully he gets it. And last year was the same way. He started the year on the DL, had some rough starts, and had this epic blow up with John Farrell against the A's, ironically, when they were out in Oakland, and
yeah, that was great.
But that ended up being the turning point, and he ended up being 17-4 by the end of the year. And I have a ton of confidence in him that he will get it together and be firing on all cylinders. What I'm not entirely confident in is how much endurance he has, because he does top out right around 160, 175 innings. And, that's, if we're already, using him this early in the rotation, if he goes into October really strong, that'll be the first time in his career that he has. And I just feel like with all this depth that we have, we could easily just put him in the pen for a little while to kind of preserve him a little bit and save his arm, and and then he could be a one of our top starters, a 3 or 4 guy in the month of October. And he pitched very well against the Yankees, so I don't think big games rattle him that much. So
yeah, I don't think big games rattle him really at all. I think that later in the year you'll see him skip a couple starts. I think it'll just be rest days, personally, just because of the way Corey is with his guys, and he's kind of loose, and he'll go up to him and say, hey, you've been great for us recently, but take a seat, relax, rest that arm a little bit, because I think if we put him in the bullpen right now, it's going to be worse, just because his worst innings are the first 2 innings. If you look at his ERA splits, his first couple innings are like above a 10, and then he settles down to 3 and under for innings 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. So he struggles out of the gate, which obviously if you bring him out of the bullpen, that might be a little tough. So I think he's going to stay in. I think that they'll just skip him around later on. I hope that's the case, because I wouldn't want to mess with them mentally, being like, hey, your bullpen this week, your starter this week, your mid relief this week, you're off 2 weeks. I think consistency is probably best with him.
Yeah, I would just if Cora is a good communicator, I think he could execute any type of game plan he wants as long as he's honest with his guys. And but who knows? We're barely halfway through May, and it's a long season still to go. And Stephen Wright could end up in the rotation. You
never know. He could be your new 8th inning guy
for one inning or another. And the thing that's nice about him is he will eat up innings for you. And
at this point in his career, that's all he's got, especially after his little mishap this summer.
Yeah.
He's got to just be all hands on deck at this point.
Right. Here's another question, David. We're talking about resting guys, and we were just talking about it with Pomeranz, but Sale struggles as well in the second half, when it comes to endurance. We had the luxury of a pretty healthy lead last year, and we almost squandered it in the last week of the season, but if Farrell wanted to, he could have skipped Chris Sale a start or two when we had a 6, 7, 8 game lead. We're probably not going to have the luxury of that this year, I wouldn't think.
No, definitely not.
So it's just, if we're truly going to rest these guys, later on down the road, or go with like a 6-man rotation, it's going to be tricky, I would think.
Yeah, I think that the best thing for him is what I said at the beginning of spring. He got back to doing minus his start 2 days ago, which is just once he hits around 100, get him out of there. I think there was more than 5 times last year that Sale was in the game at over 110, 115 pitches. And if you count all those extra pitches up, that's an extra start or 2 just added to garbage time. And it wasn't like, 2-1 against the Yankees in the Bronx. He lights out. Kimbrel was 3 starts in a row, so you got to rest him. Bullpen's iffy. Joe Kelly suspended. No, it was, oh, wow, we want this guy to hit 300 strikeouts for Nesson. So we're just going to pitch him. And I think that's where they went wrong. And I think that if Cora can keep him around 100 and save those extra 20 pitches to start, it adds up after a while. That's 200-300 extra pitches at the end of the year that he's got going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. If we have a big lead late, there's really no reason for them to come out in the 7th inning. If we're up.
No, when we're up the beginning of the year, when Kimbrel didn't get a save for like 8 games in a row because we kept blowing teams out. Last year, Sale's in that game until the 8th inning at 118 pitches just to hit 11 strikeouts. And there's no point to that. What does that do? I'm sure the way Sales talked, the way I've seen him punch himself in the head with the baseball to giving up a double or a home run, he just wants to win in October and win a ring. So I think that he won't mind having 245 strikeouts this year instead of 290 if it came down to that.
Right. And, it's nice to have those records and accolades. Sale got to 300 strikeouts last year, and it's only been done by, I think, 3 or 4 other guys in the modern era. And,
Pedro being one of them.
Yeah, and I think, Nolan Ryan was the other, and maybe Roger Clemens.
Clemens probably post-juice. Chris, what do you think about that? He probably had that done, right, at one point?
Well, I know Clemens came close to it before the juice. I don't know about after. I thought Randy Johnson was one of them.
Okay, that's who it was.
Johnson, there you go.
How do you forget the big unit? He was like 7 feet tall.
You know what? I try to forget that face. That's all it is.
But at the end of the year, like if David Price's career ended tomorrow, do you think he'd rather have his career or John Lester's career, who never won a big, who was never a Cy Young or exactly. You want the October hero. And
what do you want? Do you want Peyton Manning or Peyton Manning or Dan Marino? Dan Marino's the best loser you'll ever see.
Right, exactly. So that's what hopefully Cora as a manager is preaching to these guys on what the big picture really is. And we're not in the clubhouse, so we don't really know. But he's resting guys like crazy, especially in the lineup, which drives me nuts. Giving Mookie Day a day off before a scheduled off day. For the team.
Yeah, he did that with Hanley, too, like a couple days ago, and it not only screwed my fantasy team, but he was playing pretty well. It didn't really make sense in my mind.
Oh, yeah. My team took a blow today. I had Robinson Cano, and he's broke his wrist, I guess, hit by pitch.
Yeah, I got Kershaw as my first-round pick, so that's really not doing well for me right now.
Oh,
yeah.
I wouldn't have taken – I think he might have even been available to me, and I still didn't take him. I just his durability
I
is.
wish I had it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He was on the DL for like 4 to 6 weeks, in each of the last 2 seasons. So
yeah, that disc in his back kept coming back.
Yeah, I took Severino, so I'm not.
I got him as well.
I'm not as big of a hater as you think I am, Chris. But I took him, and
Chris, that guy helped me win today. Thanks to Severino.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, I needed a no decision, for the Sox. But we're still tied nonetheless. Let's talk about the Red Sox lineup real quick. Throughout the last week or so, JD Martinez is now tied with Giancarlo Stanton, so that's pretty good. Where were you, David, on the signing of Martinez? Were you like all in for him?
Oh yeah, 100% all in. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball the last 5 years. Top 5 in OPS the last 5 years. The guy beats himself up over if he grounds the ball out. He'd rather fly out to the warning track than hit a ground ball that might be a single. He's a hitter. He's a hitter. He just studies it, and he's sneaky batting .340 right now. Last year, he hit like 45 home runs. The guy just stays quiet, does his job. That home run he hit out of Yankee Stadium, even though it's a wiffle ball park, still was impressive.
Right. And, he's, living up to the contract, which isn't always the case, as we have learned the hard way several times.
Yeah, almost never the case, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think his first opt-out, does that come after the second year, or is that the third year?
Yeah, it's after the second year. It's one of the rare Boris contracts that's actually team-friendly, because usually that guy just tries to get everything. So to get JD where he was in his career, his age, and now the contract, it's almost a perfect contract for both sides.
Right, and it's kind of timed with the, with the possible rebuild we might be looking at with all these guys, coming up after the end of the next 2 years, Sale, Porcello, Bogarts. So
Kimbrel and all the rest.
Yeah, so we'll be able to kind of hit the reset button, and if he doesn't opt out, it's just for shorter money, So it's not really it's really a win-win for us all the way around. Chris, let me ask you this way, because you're obviously a smart baseball guy, and you know about building rosters. Would you rather have a JD Martinez on a team-friendly deal, or would you rather have Stanton on I think the 9 or 10 year deal he has left remaining?
I would much rather have the contracted JD, because you look at the Stanton contract, it's when he signed it was over 12 years at a ridiculous amount of money.
I think it was 13,305.
Yeah, 13,305, exactly.
Something like that.
So
yeah.
Well, the remaining amount of money on the contract for a guy who is as injury prone as can be, and you're paying him in excess of $25+ million through the remaining of the contract, it strongholds you. That's why the Marlins had to trade him for 10 cents on the dollar. But you look at JD Martinez for what he signed for with the 2 opt-outs, and on top of that, you saw the amount of money that they paid him, the Red Sox, in the beginning of the contract. So they front-loaded it instead of back-loading it that you used to see in a lot of these major league contracts. And I think that's what this off-season of the future is going to be, where you're going to see a lot of these kind of free agents, maybe not so much the JD Martinezes and the Hosmers, but even guys possibly younger, where they front-load it while they're still going to produce, and then once they get to the tail end of their career, or maybe you want to say the twilight of their career, then they're going to get paid at less of amount of money because they're not going to be producing. So to answer your question, I love the deal by JD Martinez. I would much rather have that than be grabbed by the what's with the Stanton contract.
Yeah, and I mean that will take him to his age, 38, 39 season. So
39.
Yeah,
he's close to 40.
Right. Yeah. So he'll end up being a DH inevitably. And what are the chances that he will opt out? I think that comes after the 2020 season.
He's not going to opt out. His agent came out and said right after the trade, he's not opting out. He's going to stay a Yankee. And I mean, why would he? Because if he opts out, depending on what happens within the next couple years, because as you know, he's injury prone. He's never been able to play a full season except for last year, and it just so happens to be when he played a full season, he mashed. But I'm not holding my breath that he's going to play 162 games. I can count on him to play maybe 130, 140, unless he runs into a wall and hurts his toe, and then he goes on the DL.
At Bryce Harper.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and if Harper goes on the DL, that's going to, make for an interesting offseason. Not that it isn't going to be already, but...
Side note, did anybody see his home run tonight?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 447, 3-0 count, moonshot.
Wow.
The home run he hit against the Mets, I think it was against the Mets, where it broke his bat and he basically swung with the knob and hit it out.
Yeah. He came out with just literally the knob, and it still went like 350.
Where was which stadium was it tonight? Or was it the Mets?
Arizona.
Oh, Arizona, at Chase Field?
It was off. Yeah, it was off Goodley.
Oh,
Godley.
Okay. Yeah.
Godley, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of been sneaky good, Godley, nice middle of the rotation guy for them. But Chase Field is a home run friendly park. I think they're even using the humidor to kind of combat that right now.
For sure. It's a beautiful park too.
Yeah, and I guess I just read this week they're gonna move somewhere else within the Phoenix area. So
are they really?
I believe so.
Texas is doing that right now. I don't know if you've ever been down to Arlington. I was down there last summer. Ballpark's beautiful. It's huge. It's too big, and they're actually closing it, making it smaller, and putting a dome on top.
Yeah. I guess the heat is hurting their attendance or whatever. So, but
yeah, the heat index in the top row is 117 on a bad day.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
That would help their beer sales, though. I mean, you know, people are getting hot.
They got some good stuff there. They got a limoncello like little